Do you like conversation on a variety of topics? Feel like no one wants to talk about the things that interest you? Tired of only hearing the same political, sports, or catastrophe talk? Yeah, we feel that way too. Join two high-functioning geeks as they discuss just about anything under the sun. We can't tell you what we'll be talking about each week because we don't know where our brains will take us. It will be an interesting conversation though, so hang on and join us. Here comes the Relentless Geekery.
Okay, almost there. It's amazing once you have something like settled as to when you're supposed to be somewhere. Calls come in that you've been waiting for the entire morning, and so thank you for your patience. Okay.
Oh, not a problem.
So
I got back just a few minutes ago from voting. I wore the perfect shirt. I'm not arguing. I'm just explaining why I'm right.
exactly. I wore my Tigers are powerful, but they take care of their young kind of shirt. So I guess that's also so so it's always good to start off with a rant. One of the
Hey, let
reasons
me get the mic. There we go. Oh, is that better? Can you hear me better now?
pretty good.
Jeez.
I healthcare in the United States is a little zany. I have a UHHS clinical pharmacy every month a call to make sure that the combination of things that I'm taking to lose weight, fight diabetes, be a healthier person, all that's coordinated. But then when you try to get like a refill where they change the dose, you find out that Mounjaro going from 10 to 12.5, that it's going to cost more. And there's an assistance program, but somehow it not only doesn't apply, it has edged upwards. We started me at 2.5 and worked our way up, and it was the same. Now it's going to change. And I find out that I have gone to the Bolwell Center, which is downtown Cleveland, or actually the east side campus of Cleveland, compared to 960 Clay, which is my west side thing, and that they don't have the same deals. And the person that was my clinical pharmacist contact, that just changed because someone was retiring and moved to the wrong term, moving to another position. I got handed off, but that handoff has been horribly fumbled. So I don't have the advocate that would help clear all this stuff. And because Colleen and I have had two trips, 5-day trips out of town, I really had to like get it to get to me last week before I got out of town, and they didn't. No mail order, no even where can I pick it up. And now I have today as my target day to go pick it up. And I'm having to do the calls and the legwork and who do I need to get this approved. And I really will be paying double the price to make sure that I don't do without it for 2 weeks. But why isn't there an automatic little tickler in the file that says when this goes up, get it approved and get the consumer to approve? Yes, I don't mind you doubling my price. And it's not going from $8 to $16. It's going from 120 to 260. So it's real money. And it's weird to say, I really want it, so I'll cover it, but it should never have gotten to this place. And some people are very friendly, and other people are very much, I have a script in front of me, I'm going to read through this script, and I don't know who to send you to next. And can you find, I had the name Matt. I don't have a last name for Matt, so I can't even look up in this, and just in every way that this should be easy, not to be weird. If this wasn't obesity and diabetes medicine, what if this was dementia medicine? And I'm now a week without, and so I'm getting, and how am I?
Or
How does everybody
chemotherapy pills or
on it like that? I could be dying. I could be not able to think as clearly to get through this all. And Colleen and I say this all the time. We're relatively sharp. How do people handle this who don't know what if this doesn't work, what do I do next? If I get frustrated, do I have emotional issues that I blow up and don't get it done at all? And then you find out that people aren't taking their insulin or whatever else it might be. And it just I all those things about, hey, universal health care. God, it's so hard that only 32 of the top 33 civilized countries have figured it out. We seem to not move towards it and be able
right.
to do it. And I
Well,
wish it was only topical, but it really is very practical and applying right to me as I have to negotiate. And it isn't like on the ocean, it's a shoal-filled coast, and I keep hitting things. Oh, I'm sure I'll get it resolved, but it's going to be now not showing up on my doorstep easily. I'm going to drive on voting day and on day when I want to be packing and thinking of weddings that we're going to. And shouldn't I be doing that? Thinking of, hey, we're going to Colorado. What do you wear in Colorado? I should bring my hiking boots. Instead, it's this weird little, I don't know, the practicalities keep getting ridiculously difficult instead of get it for me here. I'll walk across the street to my regular pharmacy, but they don't carry it and all that stuff.
Right.
So rant off, except I kind of can't believe it. I just can't believe it's this
Well,
weird.
I just saw a study, and I apologize, it's been a couple weeks. I don't remember who did it, but it was not like an American-based country. It was like some international company, whatever. They were doing some data calculation, and they took the 9 largest countries in the world and compared all their healthcare. And it boiled down to the US was number 9 in quality of healthcare. Out of the 9 top countries, we're number 9, but we're number 1 in cost.
In cost, exactly. So that efficacy, what do you get for your money? We stink, and they fight for the stinky system instead of saying we could work this all out. And even like the thing that really got me was when I first started with UHHS was because I had melanoma. And they said we have a system where all of our people talk to each other, and it's important to have, even before there was HIPAA, there was at least a concerted database of all these things that they're all looking at the same files, and you don't find out that somebody is overscheduling you or under prescribing you or whatever else it might be. That has fallen apart in our current system where everything has become an individual cost center. When I go to the blood lab or the x-ray place or the MR place, all those things, they're not one system that is all talking to each other. Each of those things sends you separate bills, and they don't use the same system to figure out you if you're going to get at one point when I had my atrial fibrillation, and I went in to get my cardioversion done, and they said, "Oh, nobody scheduled an anesthesiologist for you." And it's you need that, right? Yes, we absolutely need that. Can you get one here in real time? No, it's all, and this isn't the first time. And luckily, it has never been life-threatening, or I don't know, it's deeply inconvenient. I was working back then, and I just took this day off. Now I have to give that day back and try to get another day, and then it's not a day wait; it's 3 weeks wait. A lot of those things, maybe it parallels a little bit. You and I have seen they continually do this game of we're going to centralize operations so that they're all efficient, everybody talks to each other. But then we want to have some kind of independence or profit mode or whatever that makes it fragment again. So it's all little pieces that talk to each other, maybe, and work all that out. And then in each of those transitions, it gets to each of those ends of the spectrum for 3 months, and then otherwise everything is in the middle. We used to have that system, but they're redoing it, and so we don't have bad data, we have no data, and things like that. Or it's, hey, that's a year old. A lot of things change for me in a year. Do you have the fact that it has been? I wish that it was that all being healthy was a matter of tell me what to do, doctor. I'm a diligent patient. I will do those things. I'll take the pills and I'll do my rehab and whatever else it might be, but I don't want to get 2 or 3 different stories, and I don't want to ever fall through the cracks. And that has happened a ton of times. Oh my God.
And worse, and someone could correct me on this, but worse, a lot of time the doctors are constrained, whether voluntarily or not, that they can't look at you and say, you're unhealthy because you weigh 500 pounds. Lose some damn weight, quit eating the nachos while watching TV, and go walk around the block a couple times. They can't say that because they'll get sued. And then if somebody has a heart attack or something, they're like, the doctor didn't give me anything to take care of it. The doctor, it's a bad thing. And worse, sometimes there's medicine. We have 10 choices. The doctor may choose choice 3 because that one's giving the most kickbacks. So it's money going into their bank. So that's the one they recommend. Even if they know choice number 9 would be better for your particular situation, they don't get money from that one. And that could be a little cynical, but tell me I'm wrong.
I've only had small suspicions about that kind of thing, but I have seen some evidence of that where it's not even necessarily the doctor. In order to get not sued, they follow protocol, and this is the officially approved protocol. And so if it is that, try that drug first, even though lots of other things about a person's condition say almost certainly the 3rd drug will be the one that will be the most efficacious, but you have to go through the first 2 because they are lower cost or longer established or whatever. And I get that. You want to go with the generic drug. I do. I want to pay $0 or $8. I don't want to pay 120. And yet there's something about cutting to the chase. Time is always of the essence when you've got a condition that really worsens if you don't treat it and kill you while you're waiting for treatment. And so I'm not fully paranoid about it, but I ask questions about that. I think I've mentioned many times before, I have Jardians and Jardiance in the United States system is hugely expensive. So I went to a Canadian pharmacy and I had understanding by the doctors, all except one, that it's a civilized country. It is a first world country. You're going to get, but don't go. And I had done the research. Don't go to Singapore or Turkey or other places that might source it because you might be getting floor sweepings in a capsule. They really don't do all the FDA control and the assay that you get checked to make sure it is what it says it is and at the right dose and that it's pure, that there's not anything other monstrous thing in there. And so the fact that I've had to do that in order to, I'm a solid citizen of the United States. Take care of me. Do all the,
and the whole, I'm not saying every doctor does that or is like that, but
right.
our system definitely lends itself to that style of thing happening. And we know for if you got that argument, of course our pills, my friend is going through chemotherapy for the bowel cancer, and the pills are $1,000 a pill. He's a pill. And the pharmacy companies say, yeah, we're going to charge that much because we had years of research. We had all this, that, and the other thing. And that's very true. And I can't deny that. But I also can't believe that the pills are $1,000 each.
There's no scene in Princess Bride where they're like, pay no money for a miracle, you get a cheap miracle. You know what I mean? I talk often about one of Colleen's and my biggest goals is the longer you stay alive, the more they're going to take care of things. There are going to be cures for cataracts or bowel cancer or whatever else it might be. And you just have to stay in the game. Don't go to gambler's ruin and take yourself out of it. You have to stick around. And yet when it first comes out, I expect prices to be high. But then when you find out the places that they don't let it go for the 7 years, 17 years. I'm trying to think what I've read, that it's officially in the market and they have full rights and nobody can do a generic without violating patent. But then it should come onto the market where now they've made their money. And so the whole world should benefit. That's what the whole patent and copyright and other systems were designed. You find out that now they make a knockoff that's like what do they call it? A chimeric molecule where it works the same, but it's a mirror image, but it isn't the same. So you can charge differently, or they change it slightly and renew the patent on that while still keeping the trade secret to themselves. So some things that should have gone out to the public in 7 years, they're like 56 years now because they've learned to play this game like Disney, how they manage their movies, and what an odd
going back into the vault.
Honestly, there's money to be made from being a monopoly, and everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But that's why we have the United States and its good system of government say, we understand you need to be able to make
we'll see about that good
it,
system of government tomorrow.
And that can be our segue. But when I find out that companies are like that, it makes me actively seek. I don't want to do business with people. That's their business plan, not to make a fair amount of money and not to and to keep something from the public that could save people's lives only because of the profit motive. That steps over into evil. You know what I mean? I don't want people to steal from you. I don't want it to be, hey, now we've got knockoffs without you having made, quotes, the right amount of profits. But everybody can do a spreadsheet that says, if I have what I have to make all the money that I put into research and advertising, whatever else, over the next 7 years, here's what the pill should cost. And then after that, it's a different ball game. Instead of saying, I'm on the gravy train and I'm not giving it up. That just seems so
because once you've got $1 billion, you really are hurting and you need that second $1 billion.
Right.
Because it's just
my entire yacht.
It is so hard to survive. And it's funny, we did see this thing in Iron Man 3 with that drug because the senator was trying to get it for his daughter who was crippled and didn't care what they did to get it. It's what he wanted.
Exactly. So hey, we haven't gone to vote yet. We did not vote early. We're doing it today because somehow that seems so. I just wrote a big post. I really am optimistic. I really think and feel that the United States has seen enough of we're not going to become Nazi Germany. We're not going to become a fascist regime. We're not going to turn the clock back 250 years where women couldn't vote. They were treated as chattel. People were enslaved. All the things that are like wrapped up in nice words like originalism. It's crazy to think that we, the most advanced country in the world, are voluntarily going to go back to pretty much the Dark Ages. And because there really are lots of women, lots of minorities, no matter how many attempts they've made to disenfranchise us, anybody, I think that despite all of that, there's going to be a huge vote. Whatever we have complained about with apathy being, hey, only 56% of the people vote. If you get 80% of the people to vote, the voice of the people is going to be, we all benefit. We're all in this together. Nobody wants climate change. Nobody wants anti-science. Nobody wants nobody to be educated. Like planks in the opposition party's platform. I really am an independent compared to Republican or Democrat. But the reason that I espouse democratic values is because every time that I look at what the Republicans are proposing, it's so repugnant. It's so unbelievable that they are women back into the kitchen, minorities. We want to be able to screw with you or deport you, but not treat you as human beings, not treat you as equals. And I really think that people have had enough, and that no matter what the disinformation and propaganda, people know who's going to take care of them. People know that we are in really good shape because of good policies about employment, good policies about foreign competition. Why would you stop that? No matter the lies about, hey, the United States economy is in shambles, it's not. Stock market is up, unemployment is down, everything is working fine. Anybody who asks the question, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? All kinds of people that are more secure in their homes, better health care, happier with their kids' education.
But mongoloids say, no, I'm not, because that's what they've been spoon-fed to say.
And luckily, there's a big bell curve. There's not enough mongoloids to overcome all the decent, rational people in the middle. There's a big bell curve. And it might be that the rapacious crazies here and the idiot crazies here, but there's a whole bunch of people that they just want to have a family, raise their kids, 2.4 kids in a white picket fence house, and I want to be safe on the streets. I don't want gun violence. I don't want my daughter to be at risk of, she makes a mistake with a bad boyfriend, and now she might die because of. So anyway, I really think that there's enough stake and awareness by most people that they're going to say, I have a mother, I have a daughter. There's no way I'm going to let them get brutalized by this regime. Come on, America. Come on, good men. Come on, women. Don't let us get dragged back into terrible times. If all they've got is, we think it should be this way because there's Bible quotes about it. You can be wonderfully religious, believe in God, believe in salvation, and not listen to the charlatans who are taking the worst quotes, the worst Old Testament quotes.
Partial quotes out of context.
Built into that. How about Jesus Christ? How about love your neighbor? How about the Beatitudes instead of all the fucking things they quote about what's wrong with people, what has to be stopped? It's not about that. It's about making it so that we are all together in love.
Over the last couple of weeks, Trump has really spun off the rails. I haven't heard a single thing he said that policy or what he wants to do. It's just been hate-filled rhetoric spewing out of his mouth, attacking people, insulting people. And I'm sorry, I don't respect too many politicians because of the way that job has grown in our country and what it entails. Same thing as what we were talking about, the pharmacy corporations a minute ago. But I can at least give some respect to some of them, Democrats or Republicans, when they're like, look, I believe differently. This is what I'm trying to do for good for the country. And I can believe they really think that. I don't respect this dillweed at all. They're not as a politician or even as a human. And it makes it so hard to not want to just punch somebody in the face that says I'm a Trump supporter for the sole reason that they can't think on their own and they're being spoon-fed. And we've got issues in our family right now because my brother-in-law is a big Trump supporter. And me and Colin being who he is, said, I can't be around people who are Trump supporters. He's like, not only that, I had problems with my uncle before that. So we both said, look, we can't be around him this holiday season. I'm sorry. And my mother doesn't understand that. And we're like, we just cannot be around him. If this is what he's supporting, it was already tense with him for the last 20 years. But right. Knowing he's a Trump supporter, whether it goes Democrat or Republican today, I can't respect this anymore. And I said, I don't want to be around him. And it's causing issues in our family.
Some part of being in this world is setting boundaries, learning what things you're willing to put up with, and that freedom of speech isn't the right of him to yell to make me it. One of the big reasons that I have confidence in what I've said, it has nothing to do with the good. I think that humanity has fatigue from certain things. If you keep telling people to be hateful or afraid, it works for a certain amount of time, but after a while, you get to look around and say, funny, my country is not being invaded by immigrants. Funny, the thing that you said is sure to happen hasn't happened. So you're a liar. And people rebel against having been lied to,
But he lied
abused.
the last time, and people still say, "Oh, it was so great." I mean,
I think that we're going to have enough people that have woken up and saying, that's never been true. It's only been used to either cow us or stoke us, you know what I mean, to get us all crazy angry so that we're not thinking rationally. I think that people just, we've had it now for 8 years of being bathed in all this stuff. And the realities of there really is Russian disinformation and there really is fascist things trying to happen. But the way that they work is by having people be continually angry and afraid. And after a while, just, I don't know, this is sad, disaster fatigue kicks in. Terrible hurricane, let's help Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And after you've been bombarded by all the ads that say, hey, send us money, you're just, I don't want to move on to the next disaster, though that seems to happen. But I've done my piece. I don't want the only thing in my life to be, oh my God, it's a disaster. Oh my God, it's getting worse. You have to find those, let's go for a walk in the forest, where it's, every time I go for a walk in the forest, it sure makes me feel more peaceful. And you get to be thinking about, this is still available. There might be, and maybe unfortunately the media lead into this, there's so much to be gained from sensationalism and awfulness, hurricanes, floods, famine, etc. But the day-to-day life of most people is, my car has gas, my house is heated, my kids go to school, everything is safe and moving forward, and we're building a better world. And the things that people talk about destroying that world, they don't seem to come true, or they create them to make them come true. You know what I mean? That it sure seems to be a plank of the Republican platform to wreck things and then accuse the others of not fixing it quickly enough. If you hadn't wrecked it in the first place, if you hadn't tanked the economy or stopped the pandemic response team from doing what it could before we lost 1 million people to COVID, and we've talked about this briefly, why aren't certain people considered to be war criminals? They really did, through their either agency actively or through their neglect, let people die that could have been saved. And I really want it to be, who do we think is going to take care of us the best? If we all work together, it's not communism, it's being neighborly. It's what you do. Hey, if you need a lawnmower for the afternoon, I'm happy to let you borrow mine. It's not that they have the right to my lawnmower. It's that banding together to do things for insurance or to do things where the whole neighborhood doesn't need a post hole digger. If one guy has it, this guy has the post hole digger and I have the bread machine. And there's so many ways. Again, the specter that's often raised is that's a communist idea. No, it's just friends helping each other out. It's, if you have a snowblower, then maybe you're going to do your neighbor's walk as well. And next time they'll take a turn.
but the thing is,
Good
if
Lord,
you
it's
ask
crazy.
all these people going, oh, that's communist, that's fascist. Okay,
Uh-huh.
can you tell me the definition of communism and fascism? They're like, we can't do that. That's bad. Okay, but why is it bad? What do they do? It's just not our way. They don't know a thing about it. That's what he targets, those type of people. That's why when you get the people that actually can think and analyze, they look at it going, yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And two things personally with him, when he first announced he was running back in 2014, 15, there was an article in Newsweek or Money Magazine, one of those, that was talking to and interviewing multiple companies that worked for Trump, contracts, consulting, building Mar-a-Lago, building a tower, doing this, that they would give him a quote. It's $1 million for this plan. Okay, great. Do it. We'll give you a deposit. Get started. Okay, we got started. We need some money. Here's $1 or $2. We need more than that. We're getting it for you. We'll keep going. Okay, wait. Now that you've done 3/4 of the project, we want to change all of this. Okay, let's go cost more. No, I'm not paying more. You do it the way I want, or I won't pay you anything. And then they get done and they're like, oh, take me to court if you want the money. We can't. We have no money. Of course you don't. How many companies he did that with? And this is he's a great businessman president. And then the second one that was even more personal, our yearly conference in January used to be at the Arnold Palmer Golf Resort. And many of the people working there were immigrants. They had green cards. They weren't citizens, but they worked there. And we were talking about the president race and the election, blah, blah, blah. He was president at the time. And they were like chuckling as they're giving us refilling coffee and stuff. So why are you laughing at this? You people don't realize that almost every month that he's saying, oh, I'm flying to China to do this, I'm going down to this state and I'm going to do this, that he would not do that. He would come here and golf the whole weekend. He'd rent out the whole place and golf so people wouldn't know he's here. We see him at least 3 times a month on the weekends. And I'm like, how can a president be president and then go golfing? And it wasn't like they had any a pony in this race. They knew it. They saw him. He was there. He was lying so he could play golf. And then on Monday, they're like, oh yeah, I didn't this weekend. Good for you. Yeah. You people are freaking morons.
Yeah. The amazing thing is how many times he's done those things. It was known about him that he was a bad negotiator, that he stiffed all his contractors, that he lied like 18,000 documented lies. He didn't make a mistake. It wasn't that it was taken out of context. He lied his ass off the entire time that he was in office and since then. And I don't know why that's not enough to have people say, of course he can't be trusted. Of course he's saying anything he can.
Because they want stupid gold sneakers and China Bibles that say make America. How can you make America great when you're buying China Bibles?
Like I said, I have confidence that the stereotype of those terrible, stupid, supportive people, it still isn't that. The United States is not an evangelical Christian country. It is mostly Protestant, mostly Catholic, some Islam and some Jewish and so forth. But the evangelical crazies are the loudest of those groups. And so they keep on, they're the ones that first started. We're a Christian nation. No, we're not. And by law, we're not. And we've never been. And yet it is a communist. So what am I saying? A Nazi thing straight from the Goebbels playbook of if you repeat a lie often enough, some people start to believe it. And they've been doing that repetitious lie forever about what they want to become reality. It isn't that way, but they're going to act as if it is. They create a world that is damaging to every other world. And then whenever the worlds collide, they do what they can to just destroy other good things because they can only see, I do indeed want only white, wealthy landowners to be in charge. And they have to be of the right religion. They have to go to the right country club. They have to, those things that we as a country have rejected again and again, and including white, healthy landowner males like me. I don't think that's the way the world should be, that only I should have the vote, that I should be able to hurt people because of, you name it, their sex, their color, their economic status. There's so much to be gained from equality, from opportunity, from everybody having an equal stake in the game. I don't want it to be, now that I've got mine, fuck all the rest of you. It very much is, everybody keep doing this good thing. We all benefit from the new medical development, the new restaurant that I'd like to try. You know what I mean? The new clothing design.
Well, what was that? I saw an infographic and I didn't verify it. I don't know if it's completely true, but it was speaking of how many tech devices, medical and inventive tech devices are from Puerto Rico, that how many experts they have creating these things in Puerto Rico. It's like the biggest country creating innovative new medical devices. I didn't verify that, but I'm like, if that's true, that's what people, they don't, oh, I don't believe that because Trump said differently. And how many venues told him this time, no, you're not doing a rally here because you owe us from last time. That's what makes America great and a good businessman.
Exactly. You're going to have to go have it in an anonymous hangar somewhere because you screwed us the last time. And at least it's fool me once, shame on, you know what I mean? Not fool me twice.
Right.
We don't let deadbeats continually string people along. And that guy is the deadbeat to end all deadbeats. You know what I mean? The fact that he can send people in to negotiate for him, and they've got to be like, I know that he's putting me in the lion's den here. He's been a liar and a fraud again and again. How do I present him as if, don't worry, this time he'll come through? Uncharacteristically of the last 100 times, the last 1,000.
I don't recall a time ever in our lives that I've heard one side or the other, so many saying, yeah, I'm Republican, but I can't support Trump. I have never heard that before. What's that tell you? The people that brushed elbows with him and are saying, no, we can't do that. Oh, they're traitors. They're bought by the Democrats have so much money, they're buying Republicans to change their votes. Really? Come on. You believe such nonsense.
when it used to be that there really were philosophical differences, and that was the discussions of we have an economy, how do we treat the economy differently? We have education, we have foreign policy, whatever else it might be. And it might have been that there was a different idea of the direction in which we should go, but it hadn't become this ridiculous cult of personality and the necessity to support things that are obvious lies in order to have party loyalty. There's been too many, but hopefully some people have read them. All the psychological analysis of what goes into a dark triad personality. They're narcissistic and they're totally unempathetic. They will manipulate. They're Machiavellian. And everybody who's read that would say, that's obviously that guy. And the only way he wins is if he's allowed to do those things. You can't have that happen in a vacuum. It's like being gaslit. You can only be gaslit if you're willing to believe the next lie that the guy who has continually tried to undermine your confidence, you identify that, and then you can shake the shackles off. The Republican Party has been a long time coming to he's not the guy that's going to win for us. He's actually destroying things that we as Republicans have built, as well as the Democrats. He's destroying the country. He's consorting with our enemies, the Republicans who have for a long time been good on national policy. It was about a strong America, not consorting with Putin and Kim Jong-un or or, you know what I mean? Like the fact that he starts to cozy up to the worst dictators in the world and look at Orban's suppression of press, religion, basic rights and say, yeah, let's be more like that. Doesn't that raise everybody's hackles and say, don't let that happen? And I really am hoping, like I said, that we have more than enough evidence. And it isn't always about people thinking rationally and looking at the evidence, but just the feel for how icky he is. What a terrible rapist he is. What a terrible racist he is. That he doesn't treat his wife well, doesn't treat
None of them.
anybody
Cheats on the
well.
next one with cheats on the next one against the current one. And
I really hope that's got to kick in for somebody. Like if this guy was, I don't know, the head of the PTA, I wouldn't want him to be put up for a bigger position in the PTA because we know he's a piece of shit. We know he's a terrible human being and he doesn't have any shame about it. There's no reason he'll ever change his ways because he doesn't think he's done anything wrong. He will do anything and everything, and that anything has already slid over into such terrible behavior that I just hope that whatever that moral sense that comes from being a human being or being any kind of religion, the golden rule kicks in. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And seeing a guy that doesn't have that in him, there's got to be something that says he's bad, he's dangerous. Don't support him. Push him aside and get somebody better. The fact that the Republican Party caved to him long ago during those first debates, and then every time that he made changes as to who's going to be the head of the Republican Party, who he's going to have in his cabinet, seeing all the worst people be dragged in, seeing how many criminals he actively gave a bye, and in fact, when they were finally convicted of something, he gave them a pardon. Something's got to kick in that says this guy's just so oily, such a fucking scorpion, such a nasty human being. I really hope that for all those aspects, it doesn't have to be even the preponderance of data, that for many people, they'll be, I just can't I'm a contractor. I can't let a guy that screws his contractors get away with this. You know what I mean? I'm a scientist. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, you can't have a guy that just dismisses the truth of how science works and how it makes the planet better.
But he can do that because he is extremely smart. He's told us how smart he is, that he's the smartest there is. And because he remembers things like Hannibal Lecter. Who else remembers that? He's amazing.
If this wasn't so terribly dangerous, this would have made great comedic material to be.
It has. Have you watched Colbert?
But everywhere, everybody should have stepped back and said, the emperor has no clothes. Laugh him out of town, and if he won't leave, run him out of town on a rail, tar
and feather,
dismiss him from having any influence. Stop putting a mic in front of this maniac. You know what I mean?
Especially with what he did with the mic recently.
Honestly, it's like you can't talk about anything with being a prime example of terrible behavior. You know what I mean? He's a pervert. He's not safe walking into partially clothed teenagers during the Teenage Miss USA pageant. Every one of those things, making fun of a crippled person. It must be that everybody in the world has seen something like this. It's so repugnant that they're like, it's awful.
Which is why the people that support him and dismiss that repugnancy are repugnant to me, and I just can't be around them.
And that is, I understand that. The people that I tried to have discussions with, we're in Mensa, so you'd think if you're
Segue. So good. Yeah.
rational, exactly, that every discussion would be, what are the facts and what conclusions can we draw from those facts? And to see how they've also been emotionalized, made savage, lost in the weeds. Why are you wearing your MAGA hat? Are you really proud of what's happened so far and you really look forward to more of it? Whatever your intelligence is doing, it's betraying you because you're all about rationalization instead of seeking the truth. And I think that's a characteristic for 90% of the smart people I know. Men's is not 5149. All kinds of people are. We just can't believe that the word is being so bamboozled. Why haven't people come to better conclusions? So it's an amazement and a tearful acknowledgement of you can fool most of the people most of the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you do it in all the ways that we've perfected propaganda, perfected misinformation. And yet still, there's just enough people have seen him to be like, I don't know what to do, but I know that's not the guy. And
Right.
and
I,
like I said, I don't know that I'm necessarily Democrat or Republican, but if independent, looking at what do I want? I want Kamala Harris. I want her good policies on how we're growing the economy, how we're creating opportunity, how we're going to have more about equality and diversity. And the people that immediately jump to trans people in bathrooms and getting sex changes in school, like that's your return? Obvious, insane things to
right.
say
I,
that you're so scared or so delusional that
I,
many of those discussions aren't discussions. Nowadays, I like, wow, if that's your starter argument, we're already done. You're nuts.
my
And
buddy
so,
Casey said, I don't really care for either candidate. I said, that's fair. I felt that way most of the time. It's like they're politicians. What are they lying to me? Go look at the record of any president. What did they promise? What did they deliver? Some are better,
deliver.
some are worse. And what did they say they were? And then they did the exact opposite. Some are better, some are worse. I'll give you that. Politicians in general aren't my cup of tea. I don't trust
Right.
many of them. But I don't care about I honestly don't even care what any of their policies are. Just all these other humanistic factors of his that he dismisses and denies and steps upon make him. I don't care if he's Democrat or Republican. I'm voting the other guy because you're not even a worthy human being.
Yeah.
End of story. I've dealt with narcissism. He's such a narcissist and it destroys lives. And this is the man that would destroy the country with his narcissism.
With the magnitude of it. This to me, this argument doesn't ever get enough traction. But remember, there was a book a while back called Everything I Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. There are so many things, just like the little saying that you learned from your parents, the little fable with a moral that you learned. All you got to do is apply them. This guy has cried wolf countless times, and it's never been true. So stop believing him. This is, again, the emperor's new clothes. When you like, everyone's going to be shined over by this guy until the little child says, well, but he's naked. What is everybody seeing that I'm not seeing? This is not reality. Sometimes out of the mouths of babes, you have to have that. And there's so many things that if you just say, I don't know, in Aesop, I'll stop there because I think that most people don't want to think that by going back to being childish with the way to do this, but the golden rule, it really is, you want to have someone who does unto others as he would have done unto him, and at least doesn't do unto others things he'd hate to have done to him. And when you see someone that isn't at all using that, the most basic part of us having a working society, what is fairness? How do you make it so that you can negotiate in good faith? We're not going to have the same opinion all the time, but you have to at least come to, we can meet somewhere in the middle by compromising. When you see that it's all about elitism and extremity, fanaticism, if you have to know about what kind of fanaticism is, you know that doesn't work in a pluralist society, in a society that's made out of all kinds of people. And it doesn't even have to be the planks of the platform. It's what kind of human being are you? And I can't believe he doesn't have a sense of humor. Kamala does. Like he doesn't have any pets. I like people who have pets and have empathy and have unconditional love exchanged. You know what I mean? And there's so many different ways in which it's not just him. You're known by the company you keep. How many times did your parents worry about don't get involved with the truant, the asshole kid? He surrounds himself with the worst of humanity, not the best. Don't you get an idea after a while? And not just him, but the entire Republican Party really seems to have let the craptocracy happen, right? That the shit has bubbled to the top, and there's so many people that are the worst possible person you could put in charge of education or in charge
Yes.
of energy or in charge. And like, why do we subject ourselves to, they're not there to run our country. They're there to dismantle it, to destroy what we've built.
So for profit, for money.
For profit.
This is every sci-fi story about bad worlds that I've ever read.
And even like in the legal system, I think that we can have some idea that the system that we've created based on smart people making decisions and following precedent, because you don't undo that without having a crying reason that the world has changed or that they missed a big thing. And yet we've had people in our current terribly appointed Supreme Court that have undone precedent for 50 and 150 and 250 years, and they talk about it as if I'm a mind reader of dead people. I can go back to what the founding fathers really meant. And they're wrong. They're provably wrong about, they use that to get out of jail free card when someone says I'm a Christian, and they act in a very unchrist-like manner. They act as if they're really a good jurist, a really good decider of legal stuff. And then they throw out that system work. They throw out the basis of how it's
you could say Dunning-Kruger doesn't exist, but I see examples of it all the time.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You cut out a little bit there. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was saying the Dunning-Kruger effect. I see examples of that all the time. Sorry, am I cutting out
that
still?
People, a little bit just there, but especially it doesn't have to be about everything. Some people aren't incompetent in every way, but you'll see all kinds of people that they think because, I don't know, they're a good pool player that suddenly they think I'm so knowledgeable about mortgages as well. And people not understanding that they have realms of knowledge and that maybe you really need, like we've talked about this before, the disregard, the death of respect for expertise boggles my mind. I'm well aware of how much I know in various different fields, and I might know a lot about certain things, and maybe I have a lot of fields in which that's in because I'm this weird information sponge, but I'm well aware that I'm not the guy that should talk nuclear policy unless I've been in the field for 50 years. And all of it, whatever you deep dive down to study, and yet we've got all kinds of people. I watched a video and now I'm an expert on the Electoral College. You're not. And not having that basic humility, not having that basic sense of self that says, I should be always learning instead of assuming that now I'm the top dog. Provably you're not.
The 101 course is not the expert level course.
Like that. Exactly.
So you mentioned Mensa. I want to hear about Weem. How'd it go?
It was wonderful. I think we talked about multiple times in the past. For anybody who doesn't know, Mensa has regional gatherings all around the country. Local groups put on a party that they invite all their friends to, and they're often between 100 and 250 people. Halloween, which is Mensa in Chicago, is huge. It's 500 people. And so it's all the good things about Mensa and expanded. Many programs to go. You can learn about, let's go see a guy who's been to both the North and the South Pole. Let's go learn all about pollinators. Let's go do some improv. The wonderful variety and the quality of speakers, people who are knowledgeable and passionate about various different topics. I spend lots of my time in the program rooms and learn so much. A huge hospitality suite with like tons of food and drink and snacks and all that kind of stuff.
Tons of
beer and wine,
games.
good choices. They have Diet Dr. Pepper. I almost always I get to get my drug of choice. A huge games room, tons and tons of games. Exactly that, like A to Z, circling the room. And Chicago Area Mensa has a great games collection, and they all come out to play, literally and figuratively. And if you're looking for people who like playing games, you got a whole bunch of live ones. If you're the family guy who's really good at Scrabble, you are not the winner automatically in Mensa in any game there, because there's all kinds of other people that love playing and they have lots of experience. So that is always going on. Tournaments where that not only do you get a chance to just play casually, but you really get to see who's the winner of Oriel. I say this every year. Oriel Maxime does a logic puzzle tournament. These things are as good as I've ever seen in any book or magazine publication level. The best Sudoku with variations, the best putting dominoes on a board so that all 36 of a domino set are used in connection. It's hard to describe. Latin squares, a good variety and good difficulty. And I get humbled every year. You know what I mean? I'm really pretty good at puzzles, but Oriel is really crafty. And the variations that he does, or just, again, with everybody else in the room also being a puzzle nut, a puzzle solving guy, it's very cool to test yourself and be like, it's a flow activity. You go in there and you dive into these things and time fades away and you come out of it in 2.5 hours. Oh, okay, that's all I can do. I'm drained. You know what I mean?
And they also usually have really good talks. Most
Right.
RGs do have talks, but it's usually like one an hour type thing. But the Ween usually has two going on at a time, so sometimes you got to
More. They
choose.
have 3 and 4 tracks, and
Yeah.
all those I want to see at least the two. So sometimes I'll sit like in the back where if my expectation from the description of the program does not turn out to be what it's about, I can escape, sneak out, and go to another one that I wanted to hear anyway. So a great variety of that. The highlights of the event are the costume parade on Friday night, which are tons of visual puns. You know what I mean? And this year the theme of the gathering was road tripping. So we had people come out as road cones, but as they come up on stage, they're like, quiet, and they were cones of silence, that kind of thing, traffic cones.
Getting a little D&D in there too. Nice.
Exactly. And just great individual costumes. And they have multiple categories. So it's not only puns, it's best traditional, best pun, worst pun, best theme oriented, that kind of stuff. They have group things where I should pull my photos up, but what comes to mind? They had a person that came out as Glinda the Good Witch and actually sang the song from Frozen, no, Wicked, right? Wicked, and stayed on key, sounded really good, looked really perfect. It's wow, that's cosplay quality costumes for this wonderful costume parade that they have. Colleen and I did not dress up this year because we got so involved with the talk that we were doing and pretentious drinking and all of what we have with going out of town now for a wedding that we just didn't do something. But I guess we've been punny enough in the past that people were like, we really miss seeing the ball tie up there. And so that's very kind. We did a talk because of road trip, and we finally did our talk about going to all the state capitals. You know what I mean? Long ago, on our honeymoon, we stopped by Montpelier, Vermont on the way to Bar Harbor, and it was beautiful. And we said, we should go see this in every state. This is where every state really does it up. And so we did. And it's not been only about the capitals. It's giving that excuse to go all over the United States and see all the national parks and seashores and monuments and see all the oddities and see all the historic things and the science things and the literary things. We tried to share as much of that as we could in 2 hours. We actually did a longer than usual program. Usually programs are like an hour and 15. We were like, it's 50 states. We got a lot of material to get through. We didn't have that single person leave the thing from talk fatigue. We had all kinds of good, fun slides. We've taken pictures, not slides, on our presentation deck. Isn't that, you know, it's, yeah, exactly. The crowd, I like it when it's not just we talk, and then we take crowd questions at the end. Colleen and I were both doing it, and by us having our own back and forth, our repartee, people were also chiming in with, "Oh, I've been there," and "Hey, have you done this place?" And so, tons of good information.
Those are the
No
best
matter,
talks.
yeah. I've always had that theory of no matter how smart you are, you're not as smart as a whole room full of Mensons, and so invite that. Don't try to make it as if you're the authority guy on anything. And so we had all kinds of good participation. We got a nice ovation at the end. It really, and now we're going to do it for our monthly gathering. So if you want to see it, please come to CAM's month. It's not the Wednesday before Thanksgiving because that would be often ill attended because it's right before the holiday. So they moved it to the first Wednesday in December. So if you want to see this thing, we will refine it. As you might imagine, because I couldn't stop tinkering with it until the very end, I had a couple of typos and mistakes. And you know what? Mensons are happy to help you with
Oh
those.
God, yes.
They're happy to
You know,
point
this
Salt Lake City
particular
is in
sentence
Utah.
structure, you really got to put a comma there because of this rule from 1796 over in Oxford.
Yeah, honestly, I wish it would have been something as obscure as that. Honestly, I put Salt Lake City, New Mexico. For whatever reason, I didn't even get the right state. You know what I mean? I attribute it to a little bit of being punchy and bleary-eyed by working on it until 2 in the morning and things like that. But and then we did pretentious drinking this year, and we already talked about that before. We have an event where we get liqueurs and cordials, all the things like in the snooty section of a bar. And if you want to try it, it's $5, $6, $7 a shot. We do it that we have this year more than 120 unique ones. Every flavor you can imagine, the creamy and the nutty and the flowery and the bitter and everything. And it's again, the party has 100 people, at least half, 250 to 300 people. They show up, some in their wonderful cocktail dresses, literally, some, but everybody gets to sample like 5 shots. And you're in a safe place. So it's not like, hey, come and get drunk with us and then drive your weapon home. It's everybody, there's good camaraderie and people are sharing. And, oh, have you tried this yet? If you haven't had the pistachio cream liqueur, you should try it. And just that hubbub, the din of all that wonderful interaction. I got dozens, literally, I think we had 22 this year, pourmeisters behind the tables who they know their stock, and so they're able to say, what should I try this year? Oh, if you hadn't had the honey liqueur, the Krupnikas, there's Krupnika and Krupnikas from Poland versus Lithuania. You should try either one of those, or if you want to compare, you should, like, we had not one but two Lithuanian liqueurs this year because we just went on the Baltic cruise. I don't know that many people can say I've had a Lithuanian liqueur.
Right,
you
that's
know?
cool.
And so it was a wonderful event, very well received. Everybody seemed to have a wonderful time. We still haven't had anybody get drunk and belligerent or get drunk and vomity. It really is, because there's things like, hey, it's a really good time, until somebody puts the vomit scent into the air because they couldn't hold their liqueurs. We've been doing it for years, in its 27th or 28th year. We missed the 25th anniversary because of COVID. So one year we're just going to have to declare it's anniversary year. We've been doing this for a long time and it's worked. I think it's one of the longer running Mensa events, and it gets better every year. My wonderful crew of Pourmeisters, they really know how to unbox everything, make sure that everything is well arranged. I pop around, make sure the signs are up on the walls, and I make little puns out of everything. It's all together creamy, and use the force, Luke, or whatever else it might be. That's a great Saturday night thing. And though I try many, like I try to try everything new that I get, and so I often do between 10 and 20 shots. One of the joys of being a big guy
I was
is
gonna
that
say.
I really don't get. We then went and played double deck cancellation hearts, and I wasn't like bonking my head on the table. I wasn't making mistakes. I seem to have, either because I have so many cells in which to store that alcohol, or because I have high tolerance, because I'm German and Lithuanian, whatever else it might be, I wasn't silly. And wonderful gathering with so many good people. When we go back to Chicago, I have lots of good friends, and it's wonderful to get a chance to say hi and catch up. And besides all the things you can do, the programs and the games and everything, sometimes you're just sitting at a table in hospitality and loving the quality of conversation, that it pings around on every topic under the sun, and you get to find out that, wow, your grandkid is now doing this. If you're in your 60s, there's multiple generations, and you get to find out that, hey, smart people still, now their grandkid is going to Caltech or
Right.
whatever it might be, and there's things to celebrate.
One of Colin's, not at Ween, but one of the other RGs, one of his like childhood favorite memories was sitting at one of the tables talking with you about comic books for an hour and a half. And he said somebody that knew stuff. And speaking of, by the way, there have been a lot of things going on in the comic book world he's been telling me about. I'm like, I'll tell Alan, we need to get you on and just do a whole show on comic books and stuff going on.
He would be a great guest. Someone that works in a comic book store, and it really is state of the, timely and state of the art. I think I mentioned I did put in my first order, so I'm getting comic books in December, and it was a little bit of money, but I really wanted to do this survey to then say which things do I really want to read and which things just seem to have, they don't capture my imagination. They've tailed off. I got every Marvel and DC because I trust them, a whole bunch of stuff from Image and Top Cow and various other things where, it doesn't matter where Neil Gaiman is being published. I'm reading a Neil Gaiman thing. I'm reading Frank Miller and that kind of stuff. But I started off with, my order could have been $970. That's how much I read and comic books cost nowadays. And I cut it way back to that, but not reasonably. I really had to like, okay, Colleen, I know that we're okay with money, and maybe this could be my Christmas present if you let me do this horrible thing. Comic books, that's like a mortgage payment. It wasn't that high, but it just was still, it's not, I don't know, people have different kind of rules of thumb. I think that Colleen are like, hey, you can spend up to $300 and not have to get clearance from
Don't get the wife beaten on you at night.
Exactly that. And both of us, she's got, yeah, like you don't want something showing up in the account that the other person goes, is this somebody, they stole a card and they
did you
this?
Go to the bunny ranch?
Like that. That's a great one. And I forgot to mention this from last time. Hogstock met a band called, I think, Talk to the Future, that we had a very nice conversation while enjoying burgers at the burger place, and they might want to be on the show because they're like not just musicians. This album is very Orwellian, and this one is, and so there's some smarts to them. And we need to have more than one guest a year. We know so many cool people.
Yeah,
it'd be fun.
We should. Like somebody else had.
You just got done with a 50-year career in chemical engineering. Tell us about what has advanced in the time that you've been doing it.
Maybe that'll be our New Year's resolution, to get more guests, more interest,
or something like that, for people that we can share with the world. So
definitely get in contact with them. I'd love to talk to a band that most people haven't heard about, that I haven't really heard about. Go hear some new music and be able to discuss it. And one of the things that just happened to Colin, I'll pass on. He just got a comic book signed by Jack Kirby.
I saw him post that, and it was when I was out of town. I didn't get a chance to like glow all over him. For that's pretty cool. If you
Yeah.
got anything signed by one of the greatest of all time, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So yeah, he was pretty jazzed about that one. So
Exactly. So it would be we beautiful leaves driving back and forth to Chicago, though now they're just starting to get to where it's past peak leaf. You know what I mean? There wasn't all the different colors. It was mostly like
yeah,
the yellows and oranges
dandelions
and all
and
the reds
spring
were gone because
violets
the oaks
popping
have
up
given it up or whatever is. Which one are? I'm sorry.
out in the yard with the
I did.
weather. We had dandelions and
Yes.
spring violets already coming up because of the stupid warm weather.
Oh, they're going to get shocked when you hit cold weather, aren't they?
Right.
Hey, I came too early and now oh boy. We've talked about that. We are in Cleveland much the beneficiary of global warming, that our weather has gotten better. And yet I'm seeing and reading about things that are pollinators are now not they're not in concert with the flowers that they need. They're coming up at different times because they have different sun and warm signals, rain. And so we're going to start to get like mismatches of things that used to not compete, that they're actually are going to be due, or things that really should be symbiotic are going to be off by 2 weeks. And how much is that going to affect either the buzzy bee or the crop that they take care of? I'm hoping, and things that pop up like 6 months early, they're getting false signals, and I hope they make it through the winter. Maybe it'll make them hardier, but it might also, like the orange freeze. Florida never recovered. Remember from that one bad orange freeze back in Anita Bryant days, they
Right.
had years and years maybe to recover. So there's a name from the past. Let's bring Anita Bryant up. And it is reassuring. So if you don't read Heather Cox Richardson, you really should, because she's great about history. Like Ken Burns, it's really good to be able to show the United States is resilient. We've been through some real crap before. We had Teapot Dome, we had the Depression, whatever else it might be. And when you get to, it isn't the first time that we've worried about big technological change and how are we going to weather it. Everybody is a little spooked by AI. You mean more spooked than by radio? Than by when we had the Industrial Revolution and people were first Luddite wise complaining about it, even destroying things because they thought that's the end of my being a whittler. You know what I mean? Like it's good to know that we've been able to accommodate new technology and new thought, that there really have been philosophical changes and practical changes in all kinds of ways, and that we will make it through. It might be that there's that 10% that can't change with the times, and they're going to be sad, but the rest of us are going to be, wow, clean water. I'm so happy to not have wells anymore. Let's all have clean water,
Clean water is not important when you have to worry about all the schools doing the gender changes when kids don't really want it. We got to stick with the real issues here, Alan. Come on.
Here, please, let's geek it up for a minute. One of the joys, having going through this election, not to talk about the philosophical but the very practical aspects, I love the fact that I can go to whatever.gov and get a sample ballot and really look at the races and do some research beforehand. So I'm not walking into the booth and saying, oh, that seems like a nice name. I'm Lithuanian. Let's vote for the Lithuanian candidate. Oh my God, there's so much knee-jerk stuff that happens. But instead, you can really, how has this judge done? There's a great thing
Yeah.
called, no, darn it, why I should have my judge for yourself, that has information about who, for every judge that's done things, what do their peers think of them? What do the judicial publications think of them? What are practicing attorneys thinking of them? And you really can say which are the ones. I don't have much knowledge day to day of judgeships, but there really are levels of excellence versus just satisfactory, or of worrisome bad quality. And you can really vote them in and vote them out and not let somebody really crappy get another term.
That's fascist thinking, Alan. You could be
It's
deported.
me being an informed voter.
Back to Lithuania. You need to go away.
And same with the Board of Education. You can read about those people and see it's not only a matter of party affiliation, but it sure is about, do you really think we should ban books or not? No, we shouldn't. Do you really think that we should have every child educated? Not, well, only the good ones. We need to have more vouchers. Good. And Colleen and I have done our research, and there's good resources like that. This is, I vote for civilization, and many things that I've read are, if you vote for things that involve women being equal, having reproductive rights, you're going to have a more civilized society. That they're the ones that keep things stable, that nurture, that take care of things. And so we go to the League of Women Voters, and it's not the rabid crazy site. It really is, here's the practical aspects of why you should vote for this person because they have sponsored the education bill and the energy bill and the
Somebody
safe
that
transportation.
knows about education.
Exactly. Like that. And so we really have a sample ballot for, I don't know, there's 32 races for our particular zone and district and the other ways you look at that. And it's not only the big races, people. It's not only a matter of casting a vote. And it's funny, in the presidential election, there's 9 candidates. There's all kinds of fringe stuff. They're worried in particular about Jill Stein, the Green Party candidate. And I don't want to worry about a Green Party candidate. I agree with lots of Green philosophy. But who will she take votes away enough? Ralph Nader did, that it might actually change the election. But all those down ballot things as to representatives and senates and judges at the state level, if you're going to put a Supreme Court justice in, don't you want to have the guy that really thinks law works the way it should? Not, I have an agenda that I want to say the Bible is the law. I don't have a problem with the Bible. I have a problem with the fanaticism of it and that it supersedes the will of the people, and that it's Old Testament Bible, not New Testament Bible.
And it's only bits and pieces and partials.
That's right, that they can pick and choose. They can make an argument out of anything they want, and it isn't even trying to be true to the whole spirit of the Bible, which is love thy neighbor and respect appropriately, not cultishly, and
Right.
stuff like that. I please everyone, don't just do the donkey ballot where you go in and I like Italian people, I like women, I like whatever else it might be. Honestly, most of the donkey ballot things are, I'll only vote for a man instead of a woman. And if you're the guy that thinks that way, please don't. Please don't think that competence is only that, because competence, level-headedness, knowledge, you know it isn't only in guys' heads. You know it's everyone. So vote that way. Vote. And I'll say that another thing I've been hearing lately is all kinds of people that were feeling pressured because they're in a relationship that might not be easy to say how they're going to vote. Folks, when the curtain is drawn across and you're alone in the voting booth, you could be the biggest supposed mouth breather guy, but you can say, I want my kids to be safe. So vote for the gun control, not the guns rampant candidate. And ladies, vote for reproductive rights, even if your husband says, you must cleave unto me and I go right through God. You really have the chance to do the right thing, because we all have an independent, private vote. And you shouldn't lie about it. You shouldn't have to hide it. But if they make it that it's vote as I do because I order you to do it, you know what? Maybe you should think about that. That's not the way that relationship should be. You can do the right thing.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's a whole
sweetie.
discussion.
A whole discussion in and of itself. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I really am, for all those reasons, vote smartly, vote wisely, do the research. Wow, one day out of 4 years, you're not going to take the time to try to get the right judges in, especially if some of them are elected, some of them are like for life. Don't put a bad person in that in 2 years can do all kinds of crappy precedents. You know what I mean?
Right.
Undue precedent. I judge for yourself, League of Women Voters. You know what I mean? It isn't just one lever for all of what party you believe in. It's worth crossing over. There's one judge race like Joan Seinenberg, who's very Republican, but very competent. And I don't want to turn away from competence. I don't think that she's only a Republican. I think she's a human being. And that maybe we should follow that she's smart and has proven that she's a good juror, that she really does humane decisions instead of, let's see, legislating from the bench is one of the
Or
phrases
who's
I
paying
hear.
the most of your next campaign.
And it can be that, well, now that we've seen that there really are not incorruptible, but there's all kinds of evidence that they get bribed and influenced, at least at our Supreme Court. But maybe that's happening up and down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Take care of your friends, because your friends are the ones that put in a swimming pool for you.
Right.
And they just happen to want environmental restrictions lifted so that you got a swimming pool and then 400 people died of cancerous agents in the air because you relieved the coal plant filters that stop all that evil stuff from getting into the atmosphere. Oh, let's see.
All right, well, I need to get rolling. It's getting late for me.
I know I went a little bit late. As always, thank you. It's
Thank you.
a day, but it's still a joyous day. I'm going to go outside and the world is still running. We're going to go for a walk in the forest and it's all still beautiful.
Nice.
You know, there's still Burger Kings and McDonald's. There's still libraries. You know what I mean?
You should stay away from Burger King and McDonald's.
But that's a sign of civilization. Isn't there something about how two countries that have McDonald's have never gone to war? You know what I mean? It's like it's a sign of civilization somehow that anybody can get a $5 meal. That's a good thing, I think, even if the $5 meal might be like burbling around inside you with all of them.
All right, man.
Okay, take
Later.
care. Okay.
You have been listening to the Relentless Geekery podcast. Come back next week and join Alan and Steven's conversation on geek topics of the week.